Why do some people dare to disrespect you? The answer isn't in their strength. The answer is in your leaks. The moment you step outside your front door, you're not simply entering a street, you're stepping into a courtroom. The verdict is written before you say a single word, before anyone even asks your name. And the most dangerous part? The judge isn't a camera. It isn't the government. The judge is the people around you. Here's a shocking reality. You could be the smartest person in the room, the kindest person in the room, but if your signals are wrong, people will treat you as if you're worth less. And this is where things become uncomfortable. There are 9 completely normal behaviors people perform every day in front of others. But in the language of dark psychology and social dynamics, these behaviors are read very differently. They are interpreted as signals of weakness, not moral weakness, but weakness in impression management and power dynamics. If you do even one of these 9 things, you're quietly handing people a handle they can grab your nerves with and a key they can use to unlock the door to your reputation. And here's the contradiction that makes the first minute difficult to walk away from. The very traits we were raised to admire, transparency, kindness, and just being myself, can sometimes be the exact behaviors that turn you into prey. Machiavelli said it clearly in The Prince. People, in general, judge with their eyes before they judge with their hands. Everyone can see you. Very few can truly touch you and know who you are. That means your public image is your first shield, and if that shield has holes, no one needs a weapon to harm you. A glance, a careless comment, a moment of dismissal, that's enough. Let's connect the thread between philosophy and psychology. Carl Jung called the mask we present to the world the persona. It isn't a lie, it's an interface. Machiavelli approached the same idea from the perspective of power. People encounter the surface before the essence, and they treat that surface as truth. So social awareness isn't a luxury, it's defense. If you walk through the world assuming everyone operates with good intentions, you're not being kind, you're being naive. And the person who learns these rules doesn't become colder, they become calmer. They understand when to open the door and when to keep it closed. But before we step into the 9 leaks, let me show you a simple scene that proves this isn't just philosophy on paper. Imagine you walk into a meeting. You begin speaking. Someone interrupts you. You smile politely and say, "Sorry, go ahead." 2 minutes later, they interrupt you again. You keep trying to demonstrate that you're polite, and by the end of the meeting, you walk out feeling smaller, dimmer. Why? Because you thought you were choosing politeness, while they were quietly testing your boundaries. And if this has ever happened to you, you're not alone. Most people don't recognize this pattern until it has repeated itself for years. Today, we're going to close those 9 holes one by one. Not so you can become harmful, not so you can manipulate people with force. The goal is far simpler. Protect your reputation, strengthen your presence, and raise your social intelligence to the point where you see the game before it starts playing you. Every 45 to 75 seconds, I'll give you a harsh truth or a question designed to interrupt your mental autopilot so your brain doesn't drift into "I heard it and moved on." Think of this like a castle. Stoicism said the mind is a fortress. Machiavelli added something equally important. A fortress with an open gate has no value. Every time you leak information, leak emotion, or leak an unnecessary apology, you open a gate. And gates don't only let evil through. They also invite curiosity, pressure, testing, and the kind of people who quietly enjoy watching others stumble. So, before we begin, agree with yourself on one rule. In public, you are not required to be an open book. You are required to be clear in your actions and mysterious in your intentions. Now, let's begin. First, never reveal your next move. Listen carefully, because the strongest social poison isn't lying, it's early announcement. When you publicly say, "I'm starting a project," "I'm leaving this relationship," or "I'm going to the gym 5 days a week," something subtle happens. You take a small dose of applause before the action, and that applause quietly steals energy from your execution. But something else happens too. 2 doors open. the door of envy, and the door of interference. Robert Greene says it directly in the 48 Laws of Power. Conceal your intentions. This doesn't mean running a conspiracy. It simply means you avoid handing the blueprint of your plans to anyone who might be curious or jealous. Because here's the reality most people overlook. Not everyone is malicious, but some people experience your progress as a threat. Without even admitting it, they begin slowing you down. They offer helpful advice at the worst possible moment. They downplay your idea, or they pull you into endless conversations until your enthusiasm fades. Imagine this familiar scene. You're sitting with friends and you say, "This time I'm going to lose 30 pounds." The weak response is explaining everything, your diet, your schedule, your entire plan, while waiting for encouragement. Then someone casually says, "You always start and quit." It's a small sentence, but it scratches your confidence. The stronger response, work quietly. And if someone asks, use frame control. "I'm making a few changes. I'll talk about it once I see results." Notice something important. You didn't lie, but you didn't open the door either. Here's the harsh truth. The moment you publicly announce your goal, you're unconsciously asking for social permission, as if you're saying, "Is it okay if I become better?" Most people won't say no directly, but they'll say it indirectly by distracting you, doubting you, or draining your excitement. So here's a difficult question. Have you ever shared a plan too early and then slowly lost the motivation to complete it? If that's happened, you already understand something dangerous. Sometimes talking about a goal produces the feeling of achievement without the achievement. Second, don't complain in front of people. Public complaining isn't just venting. It becomes an identity. When you enter a room saying, "I'm exhausted, my boss is unfair, life is against me," you're sending a message, whether you intend to or not. You're telling people you're out of control. Human behavior is surprisingly simple. People gravitate toward those who make them feel safe, not those who transmit anxiety. Research on emotional contagion shows that one person's mood can quietly influence an entire environment. People absorb the emotional atmosphere around them without realizing it. So if you become a constant source of negativity, people will distance themselves, even if they like you. And here's a painful truth most people never admit. Some people listen to your complaints, not to help you, but to quietly think, "Thank God, that's not me." Imagine this simple moment. Someone at work asks, "How are you doing?" The weak response, "Man, forget it. Nothing is working. I'm cursed. I'm exhausted." You just unloaded your emotional weight on the first person you encountered. The stronger response uses something psychologists called fogging. "Today's a little heavy, but I'm moving step by step." Or, "There are challenges, and I'm working through them." You didn't deny reality, but you also didn't turn yourself into a victim. Here's the harsh truth. People don't hate someone who suffers. They avoid someone who broadcasts their suffering to everyone. Huge difference. If you genuinely need support, seek it in the right place. A trusted friend, a mentor, a professional, not the crowd. Because the crowd doesn't pay the price of your life, but they still participate in judging it. Third, never lose your temper in public. There's a difference between anger and explosion. Anger is human. Explosion is a social signal, and the signal says one thing: my buttons are outside my control. If someone can turn you from a rational adult into a shouting child in 3 seconds, you're not free. You're attached to a button they can press. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler may be feared, but he must avoid being hated. Hatred creates alliances. Public explosions don't generate respect, they generate contempt. People might remain silent in front of your voice, but later they laugh behind your back. Picture this scene. You're sitting in a restaurant and the waiter is late.
Weak response. "You people are so disrespectful. I've been waiting forever." The entire room is now watching you. Silence is key. Look calmly and ask, "What's the estimated wait time?" Or simply, "Did something happen?" Then stop talking. Silence here is not weakness. Silence forces the other person into awareness. If they made a mistake, they apologize. If they're overwhelmed, they explain. Either way, you kept your rhythm. And here's the deeper truth. The person who screams may look powerful for a moment, until you realize anyone can control them by pressing the right button. Real control is control over your nervous system. Fourth, don't apologize unless it's necessary. A sincere apology is a virtue. Excessive apology is bleeding. When you say sorry for existing, for asking a question, for expressing an opinion, for taking up space, you train people to see you as smaller. Social psychology shows something interesting. Constant apologizing increases warmth perception, but it often reduces perceived competence. When you speak as if you're guilty all the time, people begin expecting mistakes from you. Try these replacements. Instead of, "Sorry, I'm late," say, "Thanks for waiting." Instead of, "Sorry to bother you," say, "I have a quick question." Instead of, "Sorry, but I disagree," say, "I see it differently." This is called frame control. You replace guilt language with clarity and appreciation. Fifth, never reveal your financial situation. Money is a sensitive nerve in human relationships. If you tell people you're broke, you invite pity or dismissal. If you display wealth, you attract envy, expectations, and requests. Either way, you opened a door. Nietzsche described something called resentment. It's hidden resentment disguised as moral judgment. People rarely say, "I'm jealous." Instead, they say, "He's arrogant," or "She's showing off." Financial ambiguity protects you from both envy and exploitation. If someone asks, "How much do you make?" a calm response might be, "I'm doing all right, just focusing on my priorities." No numbers, no details.
Because once money enters public conversation, it stops being a resource and starts becoming a weapon others use against you. Sixth, stay out of gossip. Gossip feels like bonding, but in reality, it's gambling with trust. Because the first thought in the listener's mind is simple. If they talk about others, they'll talk about me. If someone says, "Did you hear what so-and-so said about you?" the weak response is attacking them back and revealing secrets. The stronger response is disarming. Maybe everyone sees things from their own angle. Then silence. You become a black hole for information. You hear things, but nothing comes out of you. Seventh, don't explain your philosophy to everyone. This happens often when people begin improving themselves. They discover Stoicism, Machiavelli, or dark psychology, and suddenly they become lecturers. But preaching creates resistance. Marcus Aurelius left a simple reminder. Don't waste time explaining what a good person is. Be one. Let your actions speak louder than your explanations. Eighth, don't ask for appreciation. This is where the deeper shift begins. Real social intelligence starts the moment you stop begging for approval. The person asking to be evaluated places themselves below. The person doing the evaluating places themselves above. Once you stop chasing validation, something interesting happens. People slowly begin treating you as if you are the one doing the evaluating. Ninth, never expose a fresh wound to everyone. Modern culture encourages vulnerability theater. Share your trauma, cry publicly, be raw. Sometimes that is healing, but sometimes it's naive. Carl Jung explained two powerful ideas: the persona, the mask we present to the world, and the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves: fear, jealousy, anger, wounds. Real growth requires confronting your shadow, but that work belongs in a safe room, not on a public stage. Share the scar once it has become wisdom, not the wound while it's still bleeding. Now, something interesting happens when you begin closing these 9 leaks. You speak less, you explain less, and suddenly some people become uncomfortable. They may even try to provoke you just to pull you back into the old version of yourself, the version that was easy to read.
This is the real identity test. Will you return to performing just to avoid loneliness? Or will you accept that power sometimes creates distance? So here's the question to leave in your mind tonight. If every compliment disappeared and every insult disappeared, who would you be? Because society doesn't reward you for your truth. It rewards you how you present that truth. The difference between someone who is honest and someone who is exposed is boundaries. Boundaries turn honesty from vulnerability into strength. Be clear in private, be mysterious in public, be gentle at home, be steady in the street, and remember something most people forget. The person judging you in public isn't using their heart, they're using their eyes.